This is now part two of the series that we've been in entitled Choices. Somebody say choices. It's in the series that we are learning to admit to own up to understand the consequences of our choices. We all know that some choices are easy and some choices are not that easy. To be quite honest, there are some choices that are quite hard to make. Some choices will impact you just for a day, but if you're not careful, some choices can have an impact on you your entire life. To choose is to select from a number of possibilities. It's rather interesting that God, He wants us to choose Him, but He doesn't want to be considered a possibility. He wants to be the only possibility in our lives. When you choose, you pick by preference. I really like that definition because it says that for you to select a thing, you prefer a thing. I'll take you to what Jesus said in John 15, verse 16, and I quote, He said, "You did not choose me, but I chose you." What Jesus essentially is telling us is I preferred you over some others. I don't know about you, but that's worthy of giving God praise right there for the fact that God preferred us, so He chose us. To choose is to prefer or to decide to do something. To choose is to want or to desire. We all in the course of a day make many choices. Every day that you and I are alive, we have to make choices. We choose what we are going to wear. We choose whether to eat breakfast, and if we choose to eat breakfast, what we are going to eat for breakfast that morning. You choose what you're going to eat for lunch, and you even choose what you're going to eat for dinner. Life is filled with choices. Some of us choose on a daily basis what route we're going to take to get to work, because life is one that is filled with choices. We were reminded on last week that God does not force us to do anything. God wants you to choose to do everything for Him and with Him. God does not force you to love Him. He wants you to choose to love Him. God does not force you to serve Him. He wants you to choose to do that. We had a spirited conversation on yesterday at the men's ministry, and we began to kind of ferret out some things, but what it boils down to is people make choices, and they either choose to serve God or they choose not to, but you can't make somebody do something. They have to choose to do it for themselves. Your choices, though, God wants us to know, your choices say a lot about who you are. Some of the key things we learned on last week is if you look at a man or woman's choices, you can then become familiar with what kind of person that person really is. Your choices have a way of revealing even what you believe. All you got to do is watch someone and the choices that they make, and they will show you by way of their choices what they truly believe in. Now, some don't want to really deal with this next aspect of choices, but really this is very necessary. You have to own up to your choices. You have to take an account for the decisions you've made because you made them and nobody else made them for you. So we learned some things about choices that I believe helped us last week. We learned that you should never, ever make a hasty choice. Now, God has a sense of humor. God will tend to have sometimes me preach a thing and then position me to have to live out the very thing I preached. And so here I am preaching about not making hasty choices, and then that very evening my wife and I found ourselves in a store, and I got caught up. And I made a hasty choice in the grocery store. And then as we were going home, God reminded me, see, son, I had you preach something, but now I had to show you that you sometimes make hasty choices just like everybody else. You have to be careful about the choices you make, because the choices you make in haste can affect you the rest of your life. We also learned that you should never ever make an emotional choice. Don't make a permanent decision on a short-term emotion. You should also never make a choice based on someone else's choice. Just because they like it don't mean you gonna like it. Just because it works for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And so we also learned that you should never, ever make a choice without counsel from and consideration from God. If God is supposed to be Lord in your life, then God should be part of the decisions and the choices that you make. But today, our focus is going to be on the choices that you make with your mouth. The choices that you make with your mouth. Buckle up, it might get a little difficult. There might be a little turbulence today, but we're going to deal with the choices that you make with your mouth. Betty Eady once said this: if we understood the power of our thoughts, we would guard them more closely. If we understood the awesome power of our words, we would prefer silence to almost anything negative. In our thoughts and words, we create our own weaknesses and our own strengths. Our limitations and joys begin in our hearts. We can always replace negative with positive. Pastor Joel Osteen lends advice on words when he said this. He said, be careful what you say. You can say something hurtful in 10 seconds, but 10 years later, the wounds are still there. Then Joyce Meyer, she said this: words are containers for power. You choose what kind of power they carry. I'm going to ask that you would travel with me back to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30. We're going to look again at verses 15 and verse 19. These were the verses that God blessed us with on last week, but they again will serve to help lay down the context and foundation for today's message. Deuteronomy 30 verse 15 says, see, this is God speaking to his people, see, I have set before you today life and good, death and evil. Are we seeing that? Watch now at verse 19. Jump there if you will. Verse 19 says, I call heaven and earth as witnesses today against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both you and your descendants may live. Now, that's going to mean something in a minute, but let's just hold on to it for a moment. Because I firmly believe, people of God, I firmly believe, family, that if we truly understood the power of the words that we speak, we will be more selective as to how we use our words. I believe if we understood just how much damage we could possibly do with our words, we would maybe use less words, do less talking, and do more listening. I don't know about you, but I grew up with this old adage that we used to say as kids: sticks and stones may break my bones, but words could never hurt me. And as a child, that was fun and that was cool to say, but as I've lived a little bit longer, now that I'm an adult, I realize words can do far more damage sometimes than sticks and stones ever could. Why is that? Because I can heal from what a stone may do to me. I can get over what a stick may do to me. But sometimes words can do more lasting damage than any stick or stone ever could in my life. Words can be hard to heal from. Words can direct and be very destructive if you allow them to be in your life. Words, if we're not careful, can do irreparable harm to somebody's life. Words can have a lasting effect on somebody more than a stick or stone can. Let's go back to Proverbs 15, verse 1. Proverbs 15. Let's look at verse 1. Proverbs 15, verse 1. We're going to lay some foundation of how powerful words are. Look at what it says here. A soft answer turns away wrath, but harsh words stir up anger. Have you ever talked to somebody and they were talking at a 10 level and you were talking at a 1 level? And if you maintain your ability to give a soft answer, you can have a tendency to bring down their harsh language to where you are, because words have power. And what we don't realize often is we make choices with our mouths all the time. Yet we have to understand how powerful the words that we have, these tools. God has given you two tools that many of us use haphazardly. It's our mouth and our tongues. And God says, I've given you these tools so that you could use them. But God says, if you use them the wrong way, then you can bring pain, you can bring hurt into your life. Some of us, we just say stuff without regard for the consequences of what we say. Some of us, we just blurt things out and we don't consider how hurtful they may be. Go with me to James chapter 3. James chapter 3. We're going to walk through a few verses here in James chapter 3. They're going to help enlighten us on the power of our mouths and our tongue. James 3, let's begin our reading at verse 3. Look at what it says here. Indeed, we put bits in horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn their whole body. Notice now, you can turn the whole body of a powerful animal like a horse by putting a bit in its mouth. Good God Almighty. Maybe that's what God needs to do with some of us. Look at verse 4. Look at verse 4. Look also at ships. Although they are so large and are driven by fierce winds, they are turned by a very small rudder wherever the pilot desires. Verse 5. Even so, the tongue is a little member and boasts great things. See how great a forest a little fire kindles. But let's not miss verse 6. Verse 6 is where I think we need to really focus on. It says, and the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body and sets on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire by hell. Good God Almighty. Look at verse 7. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and creature of the sea is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But here's verse 8. But no man can tame the tongue. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. We can control a lot of things in this world, but we can't control the tongue. We can control a car traveling at 70 to 80 miles an hour, but we can't control this little thing in our mouths called our tongues. We can control the temperature in our homes and in the places of our work, but we can't control our tongues. We can control little kids. We can control dogs. Well, you can't really control a cat, but we can control a whole lot of things, but we can't control our mouths. Mark 11:23. Let's go there because it's also going to make significance into what we say. Mark 11 verse 23, because he encourages us at the same time yet warns us. Jesus does in Mark 11 verse 23. Look at what he says here. For surely I say to you, he's talking to us, whoever says to this mountain, whoever opens his mouth and speaks to this mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, watch this, but believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says. Let me say that again. But believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says. It doesn't say he might have whatever he says. It says he will have whatever he says. It doesn't say there's a possibility. He says he will have whatever he says. You are living what you said from your mouth. You have what you said you will have with your mouth. You are what you say you are from your mouth. We're going to talk about some areas that God's going to help us with when it comes to the choices that we make with our mouth. But let's go back to refresh Deuteronomy 30 verse 15. Let's refresh this because we got to see it so that we can understand why Proverbs 18:21 is so pivotal today for us. Deuteronomy 30 verse 15. See, this is God saying, see, I've set before you today life and good. Are we seeing that? Death and evil. Are we seeing that? Jump now to verse 19. Let's look at it again. Deuteronomy 30 verse 19. I call heaven and earth as witnesses today against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life. Are we seeing this? That both you and your descendants may live. So, God puts the choice in front of us, but he leaves it up to us to make the choice that we want. God puts good in front of you and he puts bad. He puts evil in front of you and he puts life in front of you. And he wants you to make the choice for yourself. He even tells you, please choose life, but I still leave it up to you to make the choice for yourself. Now, go with me to Deuteronomy 18, verse 21. We're going to see how this now plays a role in our life. Deuteronomy 18, verse 21. Death, that's a choice, and life, that's a choice, are in the power of the tongue. Are we seeing the correlation here? God says, I put the choices before you, but now I want you to make a choice for yourself, but you make those choices with your mouth. The same power that you have to tear down is housed within you to build up. The same power that you have to kill a thing, you have inside of you to give life to that thing. The same power that you have to destroy is the same power to restore. But you make that choice with your mouth. So let's look at some areas. How do we make choices with our mouth? How is it that we make choices with the things that we say? Here's the first way. You make choices with your mouth about your finances. You make choices with your mouth about your finances. I love her dearly. She's our adopted daughter. I don't know when she became my daughter. She just showed up at the house one day, and she never left. Like, so I love my daughter, Linnell. I do. Trust me, I do. She is, can't get rid of her. She's just one of those. I can't claim her on my taxes, though, but I love her. But she says something. She says something that I try to correct. She says, I got to keep up with my coins. And I try to correct her because I said, I want the quiet money. I want the money you can't hear. I want the money that when you put it in a bucket, it don't clank. You know. See, you make choices with your mouth. And many of us are making choices about our financial conditions with our mouths. Too many are walking around talking about they broke. And the reason why you're broke is because you keep saying you're broke. You are not broke. You may be a little financially challenged at the moment, but you are not broke. There is nothing broke about you. Stop cursing your finances by saying you are broke. Because every time you say you're broke, what you're doing is you're limiting what God can bring to you, because Jesus said you will have what you say. And God wants you to say, stop telling folks what you don't have in regards to money and start claiming that you already have it. And I believe if somebody would change their language about their finances, God will change your financial condition, because God says you have the power in your mouth, and if you use your mouth right in the right way, God says I can change your financial condition. So I want to challenge somebody for a season. Stop saying that you're broken. Start saying, I have all that I need financially. I have more than enough. I want to challenge you to start speaking life over your finances, and I believe that in that season you'll start seeing things turn around. You'll start seeing God doing some different things in your life because you made a different choice with your mouth. I'm saying you can't afford it. Just say, I just choose not to buy that right now. Stop telling folks you broke. Just say, I choose to allocate my resources in different ways. You're not broke. The Bible says death and life are in the power of the tongue. So stop killing your finances and start speaking life over them. What's another way that we make choices with our mouth? Many of us, we make choices with our mouth about our dreams and our destiny. For some of you, your worst enemy isn't the devil. For some of you, your worst enemy isn't family and friends. Your worst enemy isn't that person you work with. Isn't that person you go to school with? For some of you, your worst enemy is you. Now, it's okay to self-evaluate. It's okay to criticize yourself. It's good to evaluate and criticize so that you can be better. I often go back and listen to sermons months later so that I can criticize and work on it so that I can be better. But some of us, we go beyond self-evaluation and we go into condemnation. Some of us, we put ourselves down worse than the devil ever could. Some of us, we blame the devil for why we're in the conditions that we're in, and the enemy is sitting there like, I had nothing to do with this. This is all on you because you keep cursing everything God's trying to do in your life. You are the one telling God what's not possible. You are the one telling God that you're not qualified. You keep telling God what you don't have and who you don't know. And God is trying to get you to a place where you can stop cursing what he's trying to do with you. If he picked you, he already knew what you could and couldn't do. So now, maybe for a season, if you would just change your language and say, if God saw enough to pick me, then I receive what God wants to do in me. If God thought enough of me to put me in this position, that I'm going to do the best I can with the help of God to be able to accomplish where he's sending me. My destiny will come to pass. My dreams will come to reality because I believe in what God is doing in me. Speak life over your destiny. Speak life into your dreams. Because look, nobody else will do it if you won't do it. Somebody say, I choose life. Stop telling yourself what you don't deserve. You deserve it if God says you deserve it. Now, before we go any further, I just want to challenge somebody to take 30 seconds and declare life over your dreams right now. Speak into your dreams. Speak into your destiny. Declare life over your situation. Take 30 seconds and say, God, if you said it, I can believe it. If God, if you say I can have it, I will have it. Speak life into the purpose that he has for you. Speak life over the things that he wants to do in your life. So we make choices about our finances. We make choices with our mouths about our dreams or the destiny. Here's another one. Lady Val that we make choices about, and it's about our health. We make choices with our mouth about our health. You choose with your mouth to talk about how bad your health is. It's interesting that God's people will talk more about the issue health-wise than they do about the God that can fix the issue. How you doing? Well, you know, I'm still trying to get through this thing I'm going through. Well, how about saying God is able and he's going to heal my body? How about that be your response for a change? Yeah, we'll walk around and say, Deaconess Bradshaw, you know, I'm coming down with something. And then get surprised when that something come down on you. Well, why are you surprised? Because you spoke that it was coming on you. Some of you, you can walk around and say, I feel like I'm catching a cold. And then when the cold catch up to you, you wonder why you're sick because you spoke it into existence. Your words have power. And then we try to religify that thing, Mother Bridgewater. What we do is, I ain't claiming nothing, but, you know, I am feeling a little scratchy in my throat. You just claimed it, so why are you wondering why you sick? Because you can have what you say. And many of us are choosing to be sick because we keep saying we're sick. And stop going around telling folks, you make me sick. And then when you get home, you're sniffling. It's because you spoke it into existence. The choices that we make with our mouths. So for a season, I just want to challenge somebody to stop speaking about your condition and start speaking about the power of Jesus Christ to heal you from your condition. I don't feel good right now, but I believe God is my healer. And that any day now, this thing that I'm going through is going to be out of my body. The pain's going to be gone. This day is the day that the Lord has made, and I am not going to let this pain stop me from blessing my God. As a matter of fact, any day now, it's going to be gone, and I'm not going to remember when it left my body. Somebody say choices. There's another choice we make with our mouths. Make choices with your mouth about your mental well-being. This isn't about sickness. This is about where you at in your head. And there's a lot of us that we make ourselves depressed by what we say. Now, we don't want to belittle. There are some real mental issues out there. We don't want to belittle the fact that there's some folks that are really struggling with certain areas. But that ain't everybody. And some of us, we are putting ourselves in these categories that really we don't belong in. You know, you can talk yourself into being depressed. If you keep telling yourself you are, guess what? Sooner or later you will be, because you will have what you say. You made a choice to be depressed because you keep saying you're depressed. But I don't know about you, but I'm in a season of my life that I don't care how bad it gets. I choose to speak life over my situation. I choose to say this may not be a good day, but this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. I may not like what's going on right now, but I choose to give God praise in the good and in the bad. I continue to lift up the name of God in a bad situation, because I know I can talk myself into a bad situation, but I can also talk myself out of a bad situation. And I choose to use this mouth to say, God, no matter what goes on, you are too good for me to be too down about my situation. I say choose life. Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. And those who love it will eat its fruit. And those who love it will eat its fruit. You know, there's a lot of folks that like to talk. They like to hear themselves talk. And God said, you better be careful, because what you say, you're going to eat. You say you're going to eat those words? I want you to know that the words that come out of your mouth go and produce the fruit that you eat from. So if you're eating some nasty fruit, check the words coming out of your mouth. If you're eating negative fruit, maybe it's because you've been planting negative seeds with your mouth. Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. If you would, just for a moment, just entertain me for a moment. Close your eyes and just imagine, if you will, your tongue being a door, your mouth being a door. And imagine, if you will, that this door opens for you good things or bad things. Picture, if you will, in your mind, your imagination, that this door, which is your mouth, unveils to you what's good and what's bad. Picture yourself walking through a door of blessings and a door of favor, but then try and picture walking through a door of nothing but heartache and pain. And then picture, if you will, that there's a lock on that door, and that the only one that holds the key to the lock to that door is you. And God wants you to know that when you make choices with your mouth, you unlock either the doors to blessings and favor and good and mercy, or you unlock the door to curses and trouble and heartache and pain. It's up to you what you've been releasing yourself into. Because the word of God says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. When we were kids, the government caught hold of a slogan that to kind of help kids eat more nutritiously. They used to have the slogan, you are what you eat. Essentially what they were saying is healthy foods that go into your body creates a healthy body. Junk in your body creates junk in your body, which then leads to unhealthy conditions. So they try to get kids to eat more vegetables. It didn't work with me. I still didn't want those greens. I hated collard greens growing up. I love them now, but they tried to make me eat greens, and I just didn't want to do it. They tried to make me eat turnips, and I just didn't want to do it. Big Mama put beans in front of me, and I just didn't want to eat them. But then my Big Mama, she was a little smart. She said, you're hungry. You will eat it. So although I may have rebelled as long as I could, when I got hungry, I found myself eating those greens. I found myself eating those turnips. I found myself eating those beets. I couldn't stand beets, but I found myself eating those beets because when you're hungry, you put aside what you don't like and you eat what's in front of you. And we grew up knowing that you are what you eat. So we had a good balanced diet at home. We had a good balanced meal at home. And we weren't allowed to eat McDonald's and Burger King. That was a luxury for us growing up. We didn't have the money for McDonald's. So whenever I got a chance to get me a Big Mac, I just went crazy because I wasn't allowed to eat that stuff, Grew up on home-cooked meals. So that's why I'm a little spoiled today. That's why I love my wife today, because she cooks a home-cooked meal. I told her, I ain't never leaving you because you cook a home-cooked meal. Because you are what you eat. But that's what we were taught. But Jesus contradicts that statement. If you would, go with me to Matthew 15:11. Because we tend to think that what we eat either helps us or hurts us. But Jesus in Matthew 15:11 says, not what goes in the mouth defiles a man, but what comes out of the mouth, this defiles a man. Let me hit that one more time. Not what goes in the mouth defiles a man, but what comes out of the mouth, this defiles a man. God wants to help somebody today. If you put more concern with what comes out of your mouth as you do what you put in your mouth, you might find your life be a little bit better. Because it says in Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. You are feasting on your own words. You are living the life your words have created. You have made some choices with your mouth, and now you're living the manifestation of what you've said. Some of you are trying to figure out how your life is the way it is now. It's because you probably said something 10 years ago that's now coming to manifestation in your life. So you got to be careful what you say, because your words have power. Your words help you make your choices. So if you don't like what you're looking at, change what you're saying. If you don't like how you feel, change your words. If you don't like your financial condition, start speaking differently about your financial condition. If you don't like the people that you're around, change your conversation and watch your company change. Birds of a feather flock together. Negative people hang with negative people. Positive people hang with positive people. People that have vision hang with people that have vision. And who you hang out with affects your language, and it can affect your future. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. So we've got to leave with a couple questions. What kind of choices have you been making with your mouth? How you doing? Well, I'm just going through. Well, you're going to keep going through because you keep saying you're going through. Now, at some point, you got to get through the through. So stop telling folks what you're going through, because you're making a choice. And the choices that you make, many of you are making them with your mouth. Big Mama used to say, God rest her soul, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say nothing at all. If we truly live by that Deaconess Bridgewater, many of us will be quiet. Because some of us just don't have anything good to say. Because death and life are in the power of the tongue. You've been given power. Are you using that power for good? Or are you abusing that power? choices that we make with our mouths. Let's give God some praise. Come on, let's give God some glory in this place.